Hello Internet, welcome back to Tromsø Twilight, the channel where I, Vincent, talk to you about books, movies, music that I enjoy, find interesting, or a combination of the two. I'm in the mood to talk about music this week, so I'm just doing a few videos about some recent releases that I enjoy. This video is about the album Gush by Kaitlyn Aurelia Smith, which was recently released. Kaitlyn Aurelia Smith, she's from the Pacific Northwest in America. I believe she lives in California now. And I don't know a whole lot about her except that she studied music, and I think that she used to play folk music originally, but she is known for her work as a composer and electronic musician. I saw her with some friends in 2022. She was promoting an album called Let's Turn It Into Sound, and this album was kind of very vibrant, extremely electronic, lots of synthesized sounds. She sings a lot, but her vocals are often processed or altered in some way, or they have lots of digital harmonies on them. When she performed live, she had a kind of digital video projection behind her where there was a figure based on her dancing in these strange, colourful landscapes. While she was performing, she explained that she'd worn a kind of full body suit and her friend had used her dancing to build these environments and this video around her. I think that the microphone she was using, because she wore a microphone that she wore over her ear by her mouth so that she could use both hands to play synthesizers and samplers. But I think that this microphone and the vocals were connected to the synthesizers and to the video so that everything played simultaneously or was like synchronized. It was a really amazing live show. The album is a bit hectic to listen to because it has these kind of jarring transitions between different parts of each song. It's really good once you get to know it. It's not hugely accessible. The new album, Gush, is easier, I think, for a first-time listener because the songs are more conventionally structured a lot of the time. Each song kind of presents one idea and builds on it. Maybe it has two distinct sections. It's not as surprising and unpredictable as Let's Turn It Into Sound. Okay, so Gush, if you look at the album cover, which is on the screen now, and if you look at the titles of a lot of the songs, you might get the impression that this is an album about sensuality, sexuality, maybe that it's about erotic experience. I think there's some truth to this, but it's also a lot about relationships more generally. It seems to be an album about love, about connection, about closeness and distance, and it weaves in the physicality of our experience into this at the same time as the sounds are very synthesized. It's mostly modular synths, drum machines, so it doesn't have an organic sound, but it has this kind of human, emotional, organic aspect to the songwriting. The first song, it opens up with this bass drum rhythm, a programmed bass drum, and then the vocals come in over the top of it, and it really sounds a lot like The Knife. The first few tracks on this album remind me a lot of Silent Shout by The Knife. A little way into the track, these low piano notes come in, and this really melodic singing. She's singing, "Keep looking away with my eyes on you, keep looking away with my eyes on you." And the melody is really kind of catchy. It also has these weird distorted digital harmonies behind it. It ends saying drip, 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 drip repeatedly. You have to wonder if it's kind of like the slow drip of the beginning of a relationship or if it's more like talking about actual fluid. The second track, Urges, suggests that, there is some erotic sexual component maybe to the beginning, but it might not be just sex. It might be the urge to touch. It might be the urge to do something, the urge to say something. She's talking or singing in the song about having urges and letting them move through her. The sound of this second track is like almost ambient, and there's a kind of sampled processed bit of vocal that just sounds fantastic. Third song, Gush, which is the title track, this one's very like The Knife. It's built around this repeated vocal refrain where she's saying, "I like the way you see things, I like the way you think about it." Same melody over and over again. There's these growing layers of synths and sampled vocals that build up around it until it kind of melts into an ambient outro. The fourth track is compositionally a bit different. Musically, it sort of reminds me of an 80s pop R&B song or a 90s pop R&B song. It's just that the arrangement is very strange in the way of all of her music. The synthesizer sounds are a bit unusual. The way things are kind of mixed and arranged together are a little off kilter, but it has this beautiful melody and it has lyrics that kind of seem to be playing with images of both bodies and plants, so it's sensual, but there's also something about the distance between the two people being described. You know, you stare into me, I stare into you, but there's a distance. I think track 5 was a single because I listened to it before the album came out. It's called Into Your Eyes. This one's very pretty. It's almost like a really relaxed, toned down Crystal Castles song. I think it's a kind of oblique love song. And then the sixth track, I think this is my favorite. Just it starts with this, what it sounds like a kind of bit crushed Atari or Nintendo theme song on like a really exciting level in a computer game that you would have played in 1991. Uh, but then a bass comes in underneath that, a synthesized bass. It's just so satisfying. And then she just keeps layering on different layers of sounds. And there are so many different rhythms and kind of layers. At a certain point, it starts to remind me of Stravinsky, where he would write symphony compositions where the orchestra was kind of playing in two different keys, or almost like playing two different pieces of music at the same time. It's almost what it sounds like. Like when the vocal comes in, you will not be able to predict the first time you hear it where the rhythm and the melody of the vocal is going to sit in the track. And then in all this lush instrumentation, there's this really naive plea for a lover to trust her or hold her hand, in mixed in with all these sonic layers. Track 7 is another kind of quite naive, quite affectionate, loving song. The only lyric in the whole song is "My favorite sound is when you feel heard." Sonically, this track, in the same way as an earlier track, kind of reminded me of an 80s R&B song, but totally off kilter. This is like a rave track if everything is mixed wrong. Like it could be like a 90s banger, but the drums are mixed really low, and it's sort of washed out. So it has this teasing sense that it could be this huge, intense, banging track, but everything's mixed and arranged in a way that makes it something more fragile. Track 8 is called Both. It's based around synth arpeggios and a beat that reminds me of Star Guitar by the Chemical Brothers, and it has a kind of distorted vocal. But then as the track goes on, it moves into these really bold synthesizers and turns into a kind of ambient composition towards the end. Track 9, Everything Combining, seems to be about the weirdness of relationships, how things overlap, how there's strangeness and familiarity at the same time, how the boundaries between two people dissolve. It has a really childlike melody and it builds up layers until it turns into something almost like a new age kind of track, something that you might have heard from Deep Forest in the 90s. There's something that sounds like it might be a guitar, but very processed. The whole end of this track is just beautiful to me. We only have 4 tracks left now, and I wonder if this album could be telling the story of a relationship, because at the beginning it's all about excitement, impulses, sensuality, then it's more about emotional closeness and distance, and then track 10, Almost, is about a relationship that just didn't quite work out. In the context of the album, it makes me think about how there are so many kind of urges, non-verbal cues, drives, needs, chemistry, things that you don't totally understand in a relationship, and something just has to be slightly off, and then somehow it just doesn't quite work. And the song is about how it almost worked, but it didn't work. And as if she wants to be closer in this more painful song, her vocals are less processed, less distorted, much clearer. Then following this, there's a track called The World Just Got a Little More Big, which makes me think kind of that might be how you feel after a relationship ends, that you have to go out and try to find something new. This one reminds me a little bit of Aphex Twin's ambient works crossed with the Richard D. James album, but there are choir-like vocals on it. It's just that the choir is super processed. The ending of the song also reminds me of Exploration. Track 12, Lay Down, it's a very strong track. It's much shorter. It's kind of based around a synth hook, and the vocals are all chopped up and manipulated and turned into instruments, essentially. It reminds me of what Prefuse 73 often does with vocals, where they're kind of chopped into blocks and pitch shifted and moved around. Then the very last track, track 13, it's called In the Dressing Room. It's a kind of sound play track. I think it's just one modular synth making weird noises. I don't know if you've ever heard this album by Vangelis Boborg. It reminds me of this, except this is like a whole album of what she's doing in this one little short outro track on this album. To me, this is one of the best electronic albums I've heard for a while. You need to enjoy vocals within electronic music to get on with this type of thing. But if you do like that, I think you could really, really enjoy this album. It's very strong. I think it's a step up from what she was doing on her previous record, and she's incorporating some of what she does in her ambient compositions into her songwriting in a way that just makes perfect sense to me. That's everything I have to say for now about this new album, Gush, from Kaitlyn Aurelia Smith. I hope you found it interesting. If you've listened to her and you enjoy her, please give me some recommendations for other things that sound like this. I'd be really interested to listen to more things within this genre. Thanks very much for listening, and hope to see you again.